Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, in last video, we had studied about the essentials of Contract Act, and the essentials which were done was agreement, which is offer and acceptance, and the second essential was consideration. In this video, we will study about remaining essentials of a contract according to Indian Contract Act. So the third essential is capacity to contract or capacity of party. So the law suggests that following persons are capable of entering into a contract if they are major, that means they have attained the age of majority. Second, they must be of sound mind person, and third, they must not disqualify by any other law. So now we can clearly say that the person who are disqualifying to enter into a contract are minors, which have the person who have not attended the age of majority, unsound mind person, which is uh, they are not having a sound mind, and third, uh, these are the persons who disqualify from another law which is applicable to him, that is alien enemy, insolvent, convict, and partnership firm. Now we take each disqualification in detail. So first is that uh, the minor don't have capacity to enter into a contract. See, according to Indian Majority Act, a minor is defined as a person who has not attended the age of 18 years. That means who is under the age of 18. So such person is called a minor. And a minor cannot enter into an agreement. If he enter into a contract, the contract will become void and he is not liable to perform his part of obligation. Although he can receive the benefits or consideration of out of contract, but he is not liable to perform his part of obligation. So the we can say that minor can be beneficiary out of a contract. That means if two person are making contract who are major, but the benefit of the contract goes to a person who is the age, who is minor, then it is a valid contract. That means minor can be beneficiary of a contract. Second, minor cannot ratify his agreement on attaining the age of majority. That means if a minor entered into a contract in certain age, and after some time he attained the age of majority, it does not imply that the person has to perform his part of obligation because now he has attended the age of majority. It is only see that we can only see that at the time of making contract, if he was a minor, he need not to perform his part of obligation. Then next rule is minor can act as a partner, sorry, minor cannot act as a partner. That means in a partnership firm, minor cannot become a partner of partnership firm. That means for to be a partner in a partnership firm, you need to attain age of majority. Now last rule regarding minor is minor can act as agent. See, in case of contract of agency, uh, principal need to be attain age of majority because see, you cannot become principal when you are minor. That means you cannot hire a person to do certain things, do a commercial activity or to become an agent, but a minor can be an agent because he whatever obligation or uh, act he has to be done uh, is on behalf of principal only, so the liability goes to principal only. That is why a minor can become an agent. Second case is unsound mind person, because the capacity of unsound mind person is does not apply in Indian Contract Act. So unsound mind person is defined as a person generally sound, occasionally unsound, can enter into a contract only when he is of sound mind. And a person generally unsound mind, occasionally sound mind, can enter into a contract when he is sound mind only. So the person of unsound mind includes lunatic person, idiots, drunkard person, or intoxicated person. A person is said to be sound mind for the purpose of making contract if at the time when he makes the contract he is capable of understanding the contract and forming a rational judgment about the consequences of contract. So the lunatic person is defined as the person who suffers from intermittent condition of sanity and insanity. That means for a time being he become insane person, and rest of the time he become a normal person. So at the time when he is making a contract, if he is uh, normal person, if the phase of his suffering is of sanity, then he can enter into a contract. Second is idiot person. An idiot person is defined as that he does not possess any understanding power at all. That means he is permanently insane. So the contract made with an idiot is become void. Then drunkard person or intoxicated person. See, when a person is drunk, he lost his judgment and capacity to uh, understand the consequences of contract, so he cannot enter into a contract at the time when he is intoxicated. Now we come to the third part, which is a person disqualified from contracting by any other law. So the person includes our alien enemy. So alien enemy are the persons who belongs to the country at which is war with in the war with India. So such persons are called alien enemy, and you cannot enter into a contract with an alien enemy. Then foreign investors are disqualified from contracting because they are representative of foreign countries. They can enter into a contract only with the permission of central government, otherwise they cannot enter into a contract because they follow the laws of their country only. Now the third person which is disqualified from contracting is convict. If a person is found guilty and he guilty for any crime and he is in the jail, he cannot enter into certain kind of contracts. uh, then last kind of person which is disqualifying from contracting is insolvent person. Insolvent person is the person whose liability is greater than his assets. So his property will become in the possession of liquidator, and so he cannot enter into a contract, because if he enter into a contract and he cannot perform his part of obligation, how can the other party will recover his damage? So the insolvent person also cannot enter into a contract. So this was all about capacity of contract. Now there is another essential of valid contract is free consent. So for free consent we need to first understand what is consent. So when two or more person are said to consent when they are agree upon same thing in same sense. That means for the same thing and in the same manner, in the same sense, when two person agreed to do something or to receive something, it is called they are at consent. And according to Contract Act, a consent is free when it is not caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, or mistake. So first we need to understand what is coercion. See, the coercion is defined as committing or threaten to commit any act forbidden by IPC, or unlawful detain or threatening to detain others' property with a view to enter into an agreement. It is immaterial whether the IPC is or is not in force where the coercion is employed. That means if you are committing any forbidden act, forbidden thing which is forbidden by Indian Penal Code, or you are threaten someone to commit such kind of act. And it also includes if you are detaining someone's property, or if you are threatening someone that you will detain his property. This all comes under coercion. Second is undue influence. Undue influence means uh, a contract where the relationship between two parties is such that one person is at dominating position and other person is not dominating. Then the dominating person can uh, obtain unfair advantage over the contract. So such kind of contract, if it is made under undue influence, shall not be a valid contract. But there are certain essentials of undue influence. So the essentials are, there are two-person, obviously in a contract there are two-person. If a contract is made under undue influence, there must also be two-person, and there need to be a relationship between two-person, because if there is no relation, there is no case of dominance. Third essential is one must be dominate the other. Fourth essential is there must be unfair advantage. That means out of the contract, one person, that means the dominating person, is gaining advantage over other. And fifth is there is an involvement of moral pressure. That means the person who is dominating is not threaten you, but you are under moral pressure to give advantage to the dominating person. So the undue influence case uh, only established between uh, certain kind of relationship which is given, like if you are in a contract of agency, the principal and agent relationship, in such kind of relationship, principal may be dominating person, and agent is the person who got dominated by principal. And if there is a contract between a superior and subordinate, so then it can happen that superior may be the dominating person. In case of doctor and patient, it could be possible that doctor uh, insert an undue influence over the patient. In case of father and son, in case of teacher and a student, in case of promoter and the company, promoter is the person who initiate the company, so he can exert undue influence over company's matter. Master and servant, or spiritual gurus, spiritual advisor and their devotees. In such relations, there is a possibility of undue influence. But there are certain exceptions of undue influence. You cannot say that you enter into a contract with undue influence in following cases. Like if you are husband wife, you cannot say that one person is dominating and other person is undominating. Such is the case of landlord and tenant, and debtor and creditors. Now, third is essential of free consent is uh, fraud. So, fraud means any act committed by the party to the contract or with his convenience or by his agent with the intention to deceive or induce a person to enter into a contract. There are certain essentials of fraud also, that first, the suggestion to a fact is true when it is not true and the person making it does not believe in it to be true. That means if you are giving suggestion to a person that certain fact is true, which you know that it is not true, and the other person who believes in your representation and enter into a contract, this is known as fraud. And then second case is the active concealment of fact by a person. That means if you deliberately conceal any fact or any information which is necessary for the making a for a person to enter into a contract, and you are deliberately concealing that fact, that it implies that you are at the fraud. Third is a promise made without any intention to perform it. That means to induce someone to enter into a contract, you are making a promise and you know that you are not going to perform that promise. Or any other act fitted to deceive. That means you do any other thing, not above mentioned thing, you did any other thing which court consider as fraud, it means it is a fraud. There are certain essentials of fraud also. That means first essential is there must be a representation and it must be false. That means to uh, create a fraud, you must make a representation and the representation need to be false. It need not to be true. Then only you can say that one is committed a fraud. Second essential is the representation must be related to a fact. That means if you make a false representation which is not related to the contract, so it does not amount as fraud. Third essential is the representation must have made with the intention to induce the other party to act upon it. That means the representation, the false representation you have made to induce someone to enter into a contract. If the person believing that on this representation enter into the contract, then only it amount as a fraud. Fourth essential is the representation must have made with a knowledge of falsity. That means the person who is making false representation must know that it is a false representation. Fifth essential is the other party must have subsequently suffered some loss. That means if you are making a false representation to induce a third party to enter into a contract, and the third party entered into the contract and he did not suffer any loss, that means court will regard it is not a fraud, because the person who entered into the contract on believing that false representation has not suffered any loss. That means the plaintiff must have suffered. Next essential of free consent is misrepresentation. So misrepresentation is false representation of a fact by a party to an agreement without any intention to deceive the other party. That means there is a slight difference between fraud and misrepresentation. Fraud is also a misrepresentation which is intentionally made, and misrepresentation is a misrepresentation without any intention. So that means the severity of misrepresentation is slightly lower. There are certain essentials of misrepresentation also. There must be a representation or assertion, and it must be false, and the intention is not to deceive the other party. That means who is making, the person who is making false representation does not want other party to be cheated. Second essential is the representation must related to the fact. That means the representation should be related to the main material or main essential of the contract. Third essential is the representation must have been made with the intention to induce other party to act upon it. It is also similar to the fraud. Uh, the person is making it should honestly believe that it is true. That means the person who is making that false representation, uh, he also need to believe that it is a true statement. In fraud, he knows that it is a false representation, but in misrepresentation, the person who is making the representation honestly believes that it is a true representation. He also don't know the falsity of the representation. And the fifth essential is the other party must have subsequently suffered some loss. That means it is also similar to the fraud, that the plaintiff must have suffered. And then last essential is mistake. So mistake is defined as an incorrect idea or opinion about something. See, in eyes of law, there are two kind of mistake. First is mistake of law, and second is mistake of fact. So mistake of law, you can do mistake of law of your own country or of mistake of law of foreign country. So in case of mistake of law of your own country and you are capable of making contract, it is not an excuse. You cannot say that you don't know the law of your country. But in case of, if you mistake the foreign law, the contract is void, it can become void. And second kind of mistake is mistake of fact. So the mistake of fact can be again of two types: bilateral mistake and unilateral mistake. So in eyes of law, unilateral mistake, that means the one party, only one party is at the mistake, and bilateral mistake, both the party is at mistake. So unilateral mistake is not a mistake in case of contract act. Only bilateral mistake is amount to be mistake in contract act. So what is bilateral mistake? Where both the parties to an agreement are under mistake as to matter of fact essential to the agreement. Then the action will be taken is the agreement will become void. So there are also certain essentials of bilateral mistake. So bilateral mistake as to very existence of subject material. That means both party does not have an idea of existence of subject matter. Then there could be mistake of identity of subject matter. There could be mistake of quantity of subject matter. There could be mistake of quality of subject matter. A mistake as to title of subject matter. Mistake as to price of subject matter. So such kind of mistakes comes under mistake. So the next essential is object, legality of object. So the object means the objective of contract. So the object of contract should not be forbidden by any law. Every agreement which is in which the object or consideration is unlawful, it will become void. So the unlawful agreement comes under following categories. If an agreement is made for something which is forbidden by law, for example, giving bribe to get a job, which is forbidden by law, selling of private movie CD, it is unlawful agreement. So the objective of such agreements are illegal and contract will become void. Then second case would be defeating the provision of any other law. If you are making a contract which can defeat the provision of any other law which is applicable to the objective of your contract or any person involved in contract, you cannot enter into such contract. Then the contract will become void. Next is if it is fraudulent. That means if you are making a contract to do fraud, it will become an unlawful and it will become void. Then if it involves or implies the harm of a person or property, that means if you are making a contract to harm a person or to harm a person's property, it will become a void contract. Then if court regard it as immoral, if you are making a contract and court regard that it is an immoral contract, you cannot make such contract. It will become void contract. Then it if court regard it opposed to public policy, that means if in case of black marketing or adulteration in food, the court regard it as opposed to public policy, and such contract will become void contract. There are certain agreements which is against public policy, which includes an agreement to restrain marriage. If you are contracting with some person and you the consideration you required that that the person to whom is making contract shall restrain himself from marriage, so such agreement are against public policy. And any agreement which is restraint of trade is also an unlawful agreement. Any agreement which is restraint for legal proceedings, it is unlawful agreement. So these are the essentials of a valid contract according to Indian Contract Act. I hope you understand the essentials of Contract Act. Thank you.